Hello, baseball fans. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening. Hope you're having a lovely week. I'm your host, Matthew, and without further ado, let's talk some baseball. Hello, baseball fans, and welcome back to the second episode of the British Baseball Podcast. This is going out on Monday, the 20th of January 2020. Today's show, I've got quite an exciting lineup. I've got Joelle Watkins from BaseballSoftballUK going on to talk about the Coaching Summit and the Coaching Awards, and also some exciting news to talk about later on in the segment. First of all, I'd like to start off with a couple of shout-outs. It's not something that I would rather do at the beginning of the show, but as I'm recording this, the first episode that was launched last week has had 99 listeners so far, and that's not just from this country. It's gone out in Australia, Holland, and the United States as well. To say that I'm overwhelmed by the response that this podcast has had from the British baseball community and the podcast community as a whole is incredible and quite overwhelming. The reason why I want to do a big thank you is because I had it in my head that this podcast wasn't going to work and it's a bad idea. Last Sunday, when I was doing my recordings for the first episode, and there was audio corruption, files weren't working, files weren't saving. I had a really good practice with the Manchester Baseball Club. And then that afternoon, I just had lots of doubts in my head whether or not I was doing the right thing and whether or not this was going to be worth the time. I was really nervous. I've never done anything like this before, and I had all these doubts clouding my mind. And my partner really helped me to go ahead and do this, and I'm really glad that I did. So thank you, Jocelyn, for encouraging me to go ahead and take the leap, and to my colleague Carlos as well, who sort of spurred me on, and he went and did his own podcast just to show me how simple it was, and I had no excuses then. So as well as having thanks to Chris Knobloch at BaseballSoftballUK for setting up the interview with Joelle, which we're about to hear shortly. I'd also like to thank Tom Pringle from Bat Flips and Nerds. And if you've not listened to the Bat Flips and Nerds podcast, I'd recommend doing it. It's British take on the Major League Baseball, and the hosts there are brilliant. Tom actually got in touch with me and to welcome me to the podcasting community and the baseball world, and it's sort of like for me being stood at a toilet and turning around and seeing one of your favourite actors, and they sort of go, "Oh, hi mate, how you doing? Nice to meet you." I'm recognising you as not starstruck. Starstruck's the wrong word to use, but I was really grateful that they helped me. They've offered me help and encouragement more than anything. So that was good. And also Ian Bleesat, who's one of the GMs at the Liverpool Trojans, sending me content, sending me support. Paul up in Baseball Scotland, again, more support and help with helping to grow my networking. The Hearts baseball team, they've been retweeting a lot of my stuff and providing lots of things there too. And also Lisa from the British Baseball Federation. Without her, I don't think this would be happening as well. I'm not saying that she kind of dared me to do it, but they offered me overwhelming support and encouragement to go ahead with this, which I'm hoping to have Lisa on as a guest in the next couple of weeks, so I'll be able to talk to her a bit more about that then. So without further ado, let's get into our conversation with Joelle Watkins. I'd just like to add as well, before I play the conversation with Joelle, that there's a little bit of delay from my end, so I'm not ignorant. It just comes across a little bit weird on playback when I was listening through it. And so please enjoy the conversation. If you want to count how many yeses and there are from my end, feel free to do so. There are no prizes, just shows that you're listening. Thanks a lot. So I'm extremely happy and excited to have my first ever guest on the British Baseball Podcast. I'd like to welcome Joelle Watkins, who is the head of commercial at BaseballSoftballUK, to talk about Coaching Summit, the Coaching Awards, and baseball softball as a whole. Joelle, how are you doing?
I'm all right, Matthew. It's a lovely sunny Sunday. I've had a full day playing indoor softball yesterday, so my body's a bit
Lovely.
tired. So it's a day of a pure day of
Nice.
rest.
Well,
But I'm very excited to join you on your second
mhm.
podcast.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm about to attend my third training session in Manchester just after we recorded this, so I'm sure I'll have the aches to look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow and the next day. It takes a couple of days to come, and then it stays. So good luck
Thank
with
you very
that.
much. For those who aren't familiar with yourself or the website, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and what's your relationship with baseball and softball?
Yes, of course. So I joined Baseball Softball UK 2 years ago. In fact, on the day that the Major League Baseball announced the London series were coming to the UK in 2019, 2020. So I have a commercial and marketing role at Baseball Softball UK. But I think what you'd like to know is a bit about me outside of work. So I'm an out and out hardcore softballer, which for anyone who wants to know the difference between baseball and softball, it's not great. There isn't much difference. The ball is a little bit bigger. It's a different color, but it's not much softer. A few variations, but effectively, I've been playing for 20 odd years on a host of teams in London and the southeast, administering clubs and leagues, and just it's a way of life almost. So I've met some of my best friends, my wife, traveled. So it's afforded me a lot of opportunities, and I'm at a point in my life where I've just turned that passion into profession. So it's all good. That's a bit
Yeah,
about
that's
me.
really good, that, because there's not many people that can say that they really enjoy doing what they do for a living, and to have something that's become like a hobby to become part of your job is that's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, thank you. I thought so too, and I was glad when they had me.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So for those who haven't managed to check out the website, BaseballSoftballUK.com, what can you tell us about your role as head of commercial down there?
So, in a nutshell, the role is twofold. It spans commercial and marketing. So, commercial, the number one priority is to reduce reliance on government funded, because we're a national development agency, part funded by Sport
Hmm.
England, with a development remit on behalf of the British Baseball and the British Softball Federations. So, effectively, I've got to come up with initiatives and stuff to help reduce that reliance on government grants. As we know, government funding never increases, it plateaus or it
Yeah.
decreases. So you could do that through a range of tactics like events, for instance, or participation
Yeah.
programs. On, on the flip side, traditional marketing is creating demand. So it's bringing in tactics to make our sport more appealing and broaden the appeal and
Yeah.
awareness to get people playing. And so you asked about the website. Well, one of the things and I'm not taking credit for this necessarily, one of the things that we've done last year is to upgrade our team finder,
Yeah.
which you can find off the menu bar. I know you've
Yeah.
looked at it, but effectively it's a quick view. It's a quick finder for people to match up with their nearest softball or baseball club to them, to make contact and to start to get playing. So we've improved that, and we had to do that, and we really wanted to do that in view of the increased awareness of the sports following MLB's London
Yeah.
series.
And from a personal point of view, that tool was extremely helpful for me. I found that there's a softball team playing at Trafford Fives, which is literally 5-10 minute drive from my house, that I didn't even know existed, and I managed to meet up with some of them on Tuesday. I was actually going to a box fitness class that was down there and saw some of the guys, and I'm going to go down there and check out more of the stuff and have a chat with some other people that are involved, because it looks like a really good setup they've got down there.
Fantastic. Would that be the
Yeah,
Tigers?
yeah. And
Yeah.
also, it's really useful for me to try and collect like a list of contacts and clubs for when I was setting up on my social media. I didn't realize how many there were. In fact, it was more the university teams that I was impressed with how many of those were on there as well.
Yeah, universities are growing for us, and the most exciting thing with universities is that in December we finally got approval to be shortlisted in the BUCS. So that's the Higher Education, University and College Sports
Brilliant.
program, included to be shortlisted with BUCS. So that means effectively that when that becomes fully implemented, that access, awareness, funding, resources, formalized programs will roll out across the UK and basically allow more students to play more baseball and softball.
That's brilliant.
So that's a huge, yeah. Thank you.
Well done. So what is it that's taking up most of your time at the moment?
Well, one of the things that's coming up next weekend, in fact, is our 5th annual Coach Summit. So it's coach education and raising those standards are key for Baseball Softball UK. And the next weekend, next Saturday, to be clear, in Milton Keynes, we have a Coach Summit taking place. Still opportunities to get tickets if anyone would like to turn up. You can find details on the website, BaseballSoftballUK.com. The Coach Summit, we bring in high-profile speakers and coaches from around the world. We've got the Canadian women's baseball team coach coming along. They're number 2 in the world, Andre Lachance. We have a gentleman called Craig Montevides coming in from mainland Europe. He's a coach of Busalengo, a very good Italian softball team, and has previously coached the GB, the Netherlands, and the Greek Dutch national teams. So we have another gentleman coming called Jim Jones from an organization called ISG. All of these people have a wealth of experience in our sports. But more than that, what the summit does, you've got keynote presentations, you've got workshops, and you've got practical sessions as well. It's not just about baseball and softball. It goes far wider than that. It talks about the principles of coaching, and that could be applied to any other sport. So I think that's the interesting bit. It transcends just our sports. And I turned up last year for the first time, and I thought it was very inspirational. So if anyone's got an interest in taking forward messages and best practice back to their teams and their clubs, I'd suggest they turn up.
Would you say it's good for other coaches from outside of baseball and softball to attend as well? Or do you think it'd be more beneficial, like you said, then about the best practices and stuff? Do you think it would be it's an open session for any sports enthusiast?
That was my takeout from last year, that some of the principles and stories that the coaches were saying just transcended our sports and could be applied to any sport. I appreciate this as a baseball podcast, and that's going to be the majority of the audience. But if anyone's got an interest in helping their teammates and their teams or club grow and develop, then I think that'd be a great place to get those insights. So, and it's a fun day. You've got people that are, totally passionate about the sports there. You can ask all the questions you want. It's some really good quality time with these specialists that are coming in. So I'd suggest coming along. It's a great day. Also, what's nice is the summit is rounded off late afternoon, early evening by some coaching awards, where we get the chance to recognise members of our community who've given back through coaching and volunteering across youth and adult categories. So that's quite a special moment, because there are some people out there who give up a heck of a lot of their time for little return.
And how are the nominations made for the coaches?
We've got a panel of experts at Baseball Softball UK predominantly from our development team. And they've also got experience coaching and managing national teams as well. So they've got good insights as to working through the nominations and coming up with the winners. the winners will be announced on Sunday the 26th. So, but come along, turn up, have a look for yourself, join in the celebrations, and there will be drinks and canapes there available.
That's what we like, and that's the Saturday the 25th of January 2020 for those that are interested. What are your goals, aims, and objectives for 2020 for yourself and for Baseball Softball UK?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I explained that organizationally, departmentally, my job is about reducing that reliance and creating that demand. A lot of that demand has come recently via MLB's London series. So that's a huge opportunity for us, not just our organization, but everyone in the UK with an interest in, teams, clubs and leagues, federations and administrative bodies. The eyes are on us. So this is our biggest single opportunity to get more people playing, frankly. Our objectives are, effectively developing the youth base in youth baseball and girls fast pitch. That's obviously talks to participation, which has grown from around 10,000 to 25,500 now. So we're looking to build on that, focusing on women, girls, the LGBT community, lower socioeconomic community, those with disabilities. So the idea is to come up with really formalized development plans for each of those formats, and working with the sports and the clubs on the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, because I've noticed that there's more sports that seem to be more and more inclusive, and not in sort of like a fault of its own, but beforehand it was only really roller derby that I noticed it was, it's everyone from and anyone from any walks of life and any backgrounds, and it was arms were always wide open. And I've noticed with baseball and softball, with the sessions that I've been attending, the numbers are just growing, and it's really accepting.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. I'm pleased to say baseball and softball aren't as brutal as roller derby.
Yes.
But particularly softball is such an inclusive sport, and I think it's one of the few in the UK to be so inclusive. Over 40% of participants are female. We've helped develop rules for inclusive rules to consider non-binary players and modifications. The sport over indexes with the LGBT community. It's just so accommodating, and I think that's the appeal. Also, on the field, it's very accommodating, because not everyone needs to play as well as a shortstop, for instance, or not everyone needs to pitch. You can accommodate different abilities in terms of speed and accuracy and everything on the field in the same team, which is quite unusual. So it's definitely a sport for all, and that's why I'm still playing.
And it's one of the reasons why I love it. It's I think a lot of other sports can take a leaf out of baseball and softball. Just moving on quick, because I know we're a bit pushed for time. I'd like to open this up to some of the listener questions. The first one comes from John O'Keefe, who's based up in the northeast of England, and his question is, he'd like to know if Baseball Softball UK aspirations for the game in the UK, what are the aspirations for the game in the UK? How do you intend to get more kids interested in baseball and softball?
Yeah, that's a good question from John. So I have to go back to the MLB London series, and the fact that that's the most amazing opportunity we've been given for raising the national profile of the sport. So that's fantastic. But as a result, we've been able to put into place, with Major League Baseball, with USA Baseball, with Premier Education, a national delivery partner, initiatives like Fun at Bat, which is a primary school character development program centering around baseball, softball. So we put that into place last year in about 55 schools in London. Great take up, oversubscribed, and it's being rolled out again this year in
Awesome.
2020. So, and there are lots of opportunities like that. You know, there are opportunities like MLB Softball 60, which is a corporate program which they've expanded, and we're working with them on that. Not to say that lots of very, you know, some of the bigger clubs like London Mets and Hearts are putting into place their own initiatives, which are fantastic. But we're actively working with the London Mayor, with Sport England, with MLB on putting in even more schools initiatives, a bit like Fun at Bat, but for different age ranges. And when we're ready to announce those, we will.
That's great. Brilliant. It kind of touched on the next question that's come from Martin from Halifax. He wanted to know, was the London series a chance wasted or fully capitalised on? And have you seen any new fans and players as a direct result?
I wouldn't say it was wasted at all. I think it was the single biggest opportunity we've had. We in the UK, Baseball Softball UK, the BBF, the BSF, no one could match Major League Baseball's marketing buck and the noise that they could create. That's not our role. We have a very different role. So they created that awareness, and we've seized on that where we can, as I said, by tapping into grants and working with the organizations, putting in place programs. It's a start. It's not everything. They're coming back this year. We've got the Cubs and the Cardinals, as you might know, on the 13th and 14th of June. But then what's interesting is that these are just 2 games, 4 games over 2 years that will, you know, bring 60,000 people a day into the London Stadium in the Olympic Park. So that's fine. But what's much more interesting is what happens outside of that. So last year and this year, and then looking forward, we've had the opportunity to work with MLB on delivering some coach development programs, cadet camps, for instance, and coach workshops at Farnham Park, our baseball and softball complex, just outside of Slough, which is for baseball and for softball. And I go back to softball because what that means is that we're opening those opportunities up to women and girls. So putting opportunities that never existed before, you know, and what's really interesting is that whilst no one really knows what's going to happen after 2020 in terms of whether MLB will bring back more, you know, more teams from the US, what we do know is that they want to leave clear legacy plans. So not just come in, you know, with the show and then leave town, having ticked some revenue boxes for them, or, you know, they've sold merchandise or tickets, but they want to put into place some clear legacy plans that we're working on with them to support in the background. And again, when things are more buttoned down and confirmed, then, you know, they will make an announcement, of course. But what's really reassuring is they're not just here for the short term, and in the background we're here to help them. And I kind of go back to MLB because 20 years ago now, in 2000, they helped create Baseball Softball UK as their development agency. So we've sort of come full circle. And we're, you know, going back to our roots, if you will.
That's interesting. And the final question is coming from Jocelyn Greenway, and she'd like to know, if you could have one wish for baseball and softball in the UK, what would it be?
Jocelyn, just more people playing, frankly. The sport is too much fun. It's too accessible for people not to be aware about it and not to play it more. There's no excuse not to play. You've got kids playing, and on my team, you know, there are people well into their 60s playing. So it's just so accessible. So, you know, and it's so easy to get playing. So that's my wish.
It's funny you should say that. Like when I first inquired with the Manchester Baseball Club, when they started posting out the open tryouts last year, I was like, does it matter that I'm nearly 40? And they're like, no, you're going to bring down the average age of the squad, so please come along. So yeah, it's
brilliant.
Yeah, it's
if you could play in any position, have you got an idea which one that would be?
Probably on the bench where I could do the least damage. I don't really know at the moment. I've just enjoying playing the game. If someone told me to go and stand in right field, I'd play in right field. If someone wanted me to play as a shortstop, I play as a shortstop. I'm just happy to play. Really, it's for me, it's more of the fun of the game, being out of the house, being with the family, walking around the park, and that's from a spectator's point of view. But yeah, it's just like you said yourself. It's just fun. It's just I can't really put a pin on one bit that I love about it. It's just brilliant.
So I see you have those levels of enthusiasm without actually being on a team yet and playing regularly. Yeah. So I'd love to hear, how things are going in a year's time when you've got the bug more than ever.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if the podcast is still going in a year's time, my journey will be recorded en route, and it'll come full circle, and we'll see if I've either made it or broke it.
All right, brilliant. Well, I wish you luck at the tryout.
Thanks, Joelle, and I wish you all the best going forward. And that will bring our time today to a close. But again, thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a bit of a roller coaster trying to get this sorted out over this last week. You've been so busy, and I just really appreciate that you've given me the time to talk to you about baseball and softball in the UK and the coaching summit as well. So coaching summit is on the 25th in Milton Keynes. Head over to the website BaseballSoftballUK.com for more information. Joelle, any final words?
No, good luck in the tryout.
Thank you very much.
Come to the coach summit and try and get yourselves to the games on the 13th or 14th of June.
Lovely stuff. Joelle, take care.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
So this takes us to the news segment of the show. And if you're still with us and not decided to listen to some true crime podcast, thank you for sticking around. Got some exciting things to talk about here. First of all is the Team GB rankings have been announced. And as we can see from the rankings at WBSC Baseball and Softball World Rankings, Japan is still number 1. The USA are number 2. 3 is Korea. Taiwan, I think it is number 4. Number 5 is Mexico, and they've moved up 1 place. Australia, they've moved up 1 place as well to number 6. The Netherlands have moved up 1 place to 7. The Cubans have dropped down 3 places to number 8. Venezuela remain at number 9. And the Dominican Republic have moved up 2 places to break into the top 10. With that means that Canada have dropped out there, going down to 12th place. So Team GB have moved up from 38th up to 31st. That's 7 places they've jumped up, which is fantastic. Hopefully we can get somebody on from Team GB to talk about their successes over the last few years and how they've managed to achieve this new ranking. Also in league news, as you'll probably know now, a lot of the teams are doing their winter or 2020 tryouts and taster sessions. If you just keep your eyes peeled on my Twitter, I retweet a lot of the news that they'll promote, or you can find yourself a team on the... I'm about to take part in my 3rd session as I record this on a Sunday with the Manchester Baseball Club, and I can't say how much fun I'm having because I'll be here all day, and I promise you guys I keep it around about 20 to 30 minutes, but I could literally talk for hours about how great the team are, the players that are down there, the coaching staff, the drills that we're doing. It's just so much fun, especially for someone that's never played or tried baseball before as a sport. It's it's great fun. You'll have a great time. Some news that's also on the British Baseball Federation website. If you go along there and have a look on their news section, you'll see that they have their club registrations are open. Don't forget, I think that closes in February. And along with that, there is BaseballSoftballUK.com website. They have a team location finder on there too, and you'll be able to locate a team that's closest to your area. Find them on Twitter or on the internet. They all have websites up: Baseball Scotland, the British Baseball Federation, British Baseball League, Baseball Ireland, and also Southwest Baseball as well. You'll find all the news from there too. And then once you've found your team, give them a follow on the old social medias and keep up to date with all their news. I know sometimes the training gets cancelled or rescheduled due to whether it's outside, but yeah, it's helpful to know, especially if you're thinking of getting involved for the first time too. Also taking registrations to attend a baseball umpire webinar. you need to register your interest in that too. And there's also some interesting news on there for those in the Manchester regions. There is some coaching sessions coming up for hitting and pitching down at Premier 5. So again, you need to register with on the BFF website, as there are limited places on that. And that ends our news segment for today. I'm pretty sure something might break in the next couple of days that I'll go, I wish I'd managed to put in, but that'll probably pop up on next week's show. So as a wrap up, again, thank you very much to Joelle for her time. I know she's extremely busy with the coaching summit and awards, and the time that it's not been an easy process trying to get her on to record with technical difficulties. That seems to be a running theme at the moment. But again, all those down at Baseball Softball UK, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for contacting and providing me with some more content for the show. And I wish you all the best luck in the future. And as for me, this is Matthew signing off, and I'll see you all next week.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.